This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning all. Today we'll see about inflammatory myositis. Just before going into inflammatory myositis per se, what is the anatomy part you know or what you remember about it? Anything you remember about the muscle anatomy? Can you see this picture? Can you see the picture?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a bone, and from bone you are having a tendon, which is like a muscle is attached to a bone with the help of a tendon, right? So that you are able to see. So when coming into the muscle per se, you have to identify the parts. What is like muscle comprising of? Muscle also has several different subsets, subtypes and all, like within itself. So entire muscle is covered by epimysium. See, the outer layer of all the entire muscle is epimysium. In the muscle per se is divided into many fascicles. Each fascicle is surrounded by perimysium. And inside the fascicle, there are several myofibrils. See, this is fascicle, and from inside there is a myofibril. And each myofibril is surrounded by endomysium. So you have three layers over the myofibril. Myofibril is the smallest part or inside, the most inner part of the muscle. The myofibril is surrounded by, or like the inner one, is surrounded by endomysium, and the group of myofibrils making up the fascicle is surrounded by perimysium, and group of fascicles surrounded by epimysium, which together constitutes the epimysium. So you remember this, right? Again, the muscle myofibril, as we talked about before, which is the unit in the muscle, it is comprising of thick filaments and thin filaments. Okay, thin filaments are actin, tropomyosin, and the thick filament is comprising of myosin, which is having an head and a neck. ATP binding sites are there. We'll see about it in detail. And this is the center one is the M line, and this is the Z line, the two Z lines. And from here, from one Z line to the other Z line, you call it as a sarcomere. It is a unit or functional unit of the muscle. Okay. Can you see the PPT?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now, today's class we are going to see about inflammatory myopathies, as I already told you. Again, now the myopathies are classified under different types. The usual common ones which we see are dermatomyositis, polymyositis, inclusion body myositis, and immune-mediated necrotizing myopathy. These are the usual ones which we see. And initially, I just want to give you differences between it so that you can remember, or like you can highlight yourself which one is important for you to consider. See, myositis always there is always myositis and also neuropathy, which is both presenting with a weakness. But how do you want to distinguish between both of them? Usually myopathies are like proximal in origin, whereas distal are neuropathies. That is how you differentiate when you see a person. Proximal in the sense when he is having difficulty in combing, but not for gripping a pen or anything, then that is proximal muscle weakness, which is more to do with the muscle related issues. If it is like for gripping there is a problem, that is distal and more of with a neuropathy. So you know the difference now. What is a myopathy and how the myopathy presents and how a neuropathy presents. And in myopathies, usually they are proximal, and distal involvement is present in few, and that is inclusion body myositis. Okay. See, in this table, you are seeing dermatomyositis, polymyositis, and necrotizing myopathy, antisynthetase syndrome, and inclusion body myositis. These are the different types. Like for your level, you just remember dermatomyositis and polymyositis. That is good enough to go. And inclusion body myositis. Usually, dermatomyositis and polymyositis both are female preponderance. You see more in female. Whereas dermatomyositis you see in the childhood, whereas in polymyositis it is seen in the adults. Okay, but it is not like after 50 years. Whereas inclusion body myositis in males you see, and it is usually more than 50 years. Okay, so that is how you differentiate according to the age base and gender base, which persons who are the ones who are affected. And you see rash in dermatomyositis and antisynthetase syndrome sometimes, but not in any other disease, any other myositis. And the pattern of weakness is proximal more than distal. In polymyositis, distal polymyositis, dermatomyositis, necrotizing myopathy, antisynthetase syndrome, and in inclusion body, both proximal and distal are affected. And there is one of the important MCQ in this area. Finger flexors are involved in which myopathy they ask. That is in inclusion body myositis because it has some distal predilection. So finger flexors or wrist flexors are involved. Okay. And then coming to the lab features. In lab, usually creatinine kinase is the enzyme which is marker of myopathies. So whenever a muscle is involved or damaged, creatinine kinase which is present inside the muscle cell is elevated. That is elevated to more than the level of 10 times in most of the myopathies. Okay. In dermatomyositis, it can be normal or it can be increased up to 50 times the normal level. So you have a very high levels of creatinine kinase in dermatomyositis. In polymyositis also, it can be normal or it can increase up to 50 times more than the normal levels. Okay. And whereas necrotizing myopathy, it is always elevated. It can never be normal. And it is usually elevated more than 10 times. So very high levels you can't see in necrotizing, but you can have more than, but you can't even see the normal levels. Whereas in dermatomyositis and polymyositis, you can see sometimes the normal levels. Again, coming to the antisynthetase syndrome, you have more than 10 times elevation of the antibodies, creatinine kinase. Whereas in inclusion body myositis, it can be normal or it can be mildly increased, and it is usually less than 10 times increase. In rest others, you at least told more than 50 in dermatomyositis and polymyositis, more than 10 in necrotizing antisynthetase, whereas less than 10 in inclusion body myositis. So in this, up to now, whatever we discussed, inclusion body myositis is something completely atypical or something against the classical pattern of dermatomyositis and polymyositis. And coming to the antibodies, in dermatomyositis, you have like muscle specific antibodies like anti-MDA5, melanoma differentiating antigen 5, anti-TIF1, anti-MI2, anti-NXP2. These are the different antibodies present in dermatomyositis. You have to remember this because these are something specific. So when these are present, you can say it is dermatomyositis, and you can also say what is the condition they are going to have in future. If they have MDA5, you can say like ILD can be progressive in some time, so you have to keep them under follow-up. Sometimes they can be having the cancer predilection also. Coming to necrotizing myopathy, you can have HMG-CoA reductase antibodies or anti-SRP antibodies. Why is it important? SRP antibodies, if present, there is some cardiac involvement. Okay. And then coming to the antisynthetase syndrome, these antibodies are antisynthetase antibodies. And then inclusion body antibodies are anti-CN1A antibodies. This is one of the newest, or like in 2013 they have discovered this antibody, CN1A antibody. They are like the recent ones which is being discovered. So in this way they can ask you, and they have large granular lymphocytes on flow cytometry and reduce CD4 to CD8 ratio with increased CD8 count. Okay, that is to do with the lab manifestations. And coming to muscle biopsy, per se myositis, if you have the clinical features, muscle biopsy is not mandatory, especially in dermatomyositis. If the patient comes with the classical features of rash and myopathy, you need not even do muscle biopsy. It is never mandatory. But if you want to confirm, or if you have uncertainty in any case, and if at all, if it is an amyopathic dermatomyositis, then you can consider muscle biopsy. MRI also can be done, which can show the features of inflammation. Muscle biopsy is well known since very previous times itself. MRI recently started because we can detect the inflammation and all. So muscle biopsy in dermatomyositis, it can show perimysial and perivascular inflammation. Okay. And there is interferon 1 regulated proteins like MHC1 and MHCA are usually present, and membrane attack complex is deposited in the capillaries. Okay, so you have to remember one thing, like dermatomyositis pathology is complement mediated, whereas polymyositis pathology is MHC1 mediated, which is because of CD8 cells. Just one thing, like complement mediated in dermatomyositis, whereas CD8 mediated in polymyositis. That is for the differentiation. And also this MAC deposits on the capillaries. That is the reason you can have vascular involvement in these patients. And also in biopsy, there is perimysium. I told you where perimysium is. Epimysium, endomysium, and epimysium, perimysium, and endomysium. As you remember the picture, you can see, you can understand where the deposition is there in dermatomyositis. Whereas in polymyositis, it is in endomysial and perivascular inflammation. So endomysium is almost inside. So polymyositis is something like involving the deepest structures. And also there is CD8 cells involving and destroying the cell, and there is MHC1 expression because it is CD8 mediated. So you remember CD8 is for MHC1 and CD4 is for MHC2, right? Then coming to the necrotizing myopathy, here you can see necrotizing myosin fibers along with the inflammatory infiltrates of CD8 cells. Okay. And then antisynthetase syndrome, you have perimysial and perivascular inflammation and perimysial fragmentation with alkaline phosphatase staining. Perimysial muscle damage with necrosis. So you see necrosis in necrotizing myopathy as well as in antisynthetase syndrome, and perimysial involvement in dermatomyositis and antisynthetase syndrome. Again, coming to inclusion body myositis, you can have endomysial inflammation, perivascular inflammation, and there is MHC1 expression, and rimmed vacuoles are present. This is one of the past important, they can ask you in your viva or anything. There are rimmed vacuoles in inclusion body myositis because everything in inclusion body myositis is atypical. Like whatever you say in the above picture doesn't correlate with here. Either the male preponderance or in elderly patients of more than 50 years, or because of the endomysial involvement along with the rimmed vacuoles. Then there is P62, LC32, TDP43 aggregates are present. And in electron microscopy, you see 15 to 18 nanometers tubular filaments, retract and Cox negative fibers. Okay, that is in the muscle biopsy. Coming to the cellular infiltrates, CD4 cells, dendritic cells, B cells, macrophages are seen in dermatomyositis, and CD8 cells are seen in polymyositis. And macrophages and necrotic fibers which are undergoing phagocytosis is in necrotizing myopathy. And antisynthetase syndrome, CD4 dendritic cells, B cells, macrophages are seen. In inclusion body myositis, CD8 T cells are seen, macrophages, plasma cells. Plasma cells we are hearing here only, right? So you can remember in here and polymyositis. Dendritic cells, large granular lymphocytes. Large granular lymphocytes is alone here in inclusion bodies. Usually you can remember inclusion body myocytes can go along with the polymyositis picture to a certain extent. Rest others it is typical. And then coming to response to therapy, these all are responsive to immunosuppression, whereas inclusion body myositis is not responsive to treatment or immunosuppression. If you have inclusion body myositis, that is a very poor prognosis. You need to be very vigilant. Rest others, you have to take care to start them on the treatment early so that they don't progress. And the common associated conditions are in dermatomyositis, mostly the cause of death will be myocarditis. ILD can be present. Then these all correlates with which type of antibody they are having. Malignancy can be there, vasculitis, and other CTD. Vasculitis, why here? Because I already told you here that it is having perivascular inflammation or it is having MAC deposition, complement mediated. As this is complement mediated, MAC is formed. MAC is formed in both perimysial and perivascular. So muscle is involved as well as vascular system is involved. So vasculitis and other CTDs like usually SLE and Sjogren's. These two are usually seen in case of dermatomyositis. And then coming to the next one, polymyositis, myocarditis, ILD, can be seen. Other CTDs are present, but it is not as common as in dermatomyositis. Coming to necrotizing myopathy, malignancy can be seen, like as therapy antibodies, as I told you. They are also inclusive, like indicative of myocarditis, heart involvement as well as malignancy. Then CTD can be there, but not as like that of dermatomyositis. HMG-CoA reductase antibodies can be triggered by statin use. So, statin is one of the common drug we give for elderly patients with the risk factors and who is developing some CADs, right? So, whenever we put the patient on statins, some of the patients can have symptoms of myopathy, and some patients need not have symptoms, but sometimes when we do routine test of creatine kinase, the creatine kinase can be elevated. So in these patients, if it is not elevated up to more than 10 times the normal, then you can take it like it is a benign entity and you can continue the statins without stopping it and follow up for the clinical manifestations. So that is how you proceed when the creatinine kinase is less than 10 times normal. If it is more than 10 times normal, then you can consider it to be necrotizing myopathy, like HMG-CoA reductase antibodies can be positive in these cases. So you have to go for, after creatinine kinase, HMG-CoA reductase antibodies can be checked. Okay. Then coming to the anti-synthetase syndrome, here you have associated feature as non-erosive arthritis. Arthritis was one of the commonest finding in anti-synthetase syndrome. Anti-synthetase means nothing but anti-tRNA synthetase antibody, tRNA antibodies are present. Raynaud's phenomena is commonly seen. Mechanic hand and fever is seen. So mechanic hand is one of the things they can ask you. Where do you find mechanic's hand? Like it can be seen in rest others also. You can remember anti-synthetase syndrome along with Raynaud's. Then coming to inclusion body myositis. As I already told you before, like cellular infiltrates are large granular lymphocytes. Usually you see granular lymphocytic leukemia can be present, lymphocytosis can be present, sarcoidosis can be there, and Sika syndrome or Sjogren's can be there in inclusion body myositis. So inclusion body, in dermatomyositis, you can see that associated CTDs. Here also you can see Sika syndrome or Sjogren's syndrome. So that is with this table. Once you remember this table or you understand this table, everything becomes easy. Are you able to follow me?
Yes, ma'am.
Is everyone there or everyone left already and they started doing their own works? Are you all there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So that is the thing with the table. This there is. Can you see the slide normally, or is it like seen different, like half cut out slide? Are you able to see?
We can't see the complete thing.
Okay, there is something with this the system coming differently. Okay, I will tell you, and I will adjust the slide according to the way I am telling. So IIM is nothing but idiopathic inflammatory myopathy, which includes dermatomyositis, polymyositis, and immune-mediated necrotizing myopathy, inclusion body myositis, as I already gave you the introduction. So, like, it is a heterogeneous group of autoimmune disease predominantly affecting the skeletal muscle, resulting in muscle inflammation and weakness. The other organ systems involved are skin, cardiac, GI system, and pulmonary system. Cardiac, like myocarditis, can happen. GI vasculitis can happen. ILDs can happen. Skin is in dermatomyositis, all the different patterns of rash you can have, which I'll tell you, which I'll show you. Most common ones are these ones. I already told about epidemiology. You can see dermatomyositis is usually seen in the children, and it can occur in the later stages, but usually in children. If it is in elderly, you can only think of like inclusion body myositis unless otherwise proved by muscle biopsy. And in polymyositis, it is rare in childhood, and it usually affects the adult population, but it is less than 50 years. If more than 50 years, it is always inclusion body myositis. And usually females are more affected in dermato and polymyositis and rest others. Inclusion body, it is male preponderance. And this is the Bowen Peter classification, which was given in the earlier days. Now we have a new classification called ACR Euler classification, which was given in 2013. Okay, this previously Bowen Peterson classification, why is it important, is the ACR Euler classification came into light, or like we started practicing only from past year or two. So until before we had only Bowen Peterson classification. In this classification, there is symmetrical proximal muscle weakness and elevation in skeletal muscle enzymes, abnormal EMG, muscle biopsy, and skin rash. So you have the clinical feature, which is suggesting of myopathy, and then a lab feature of elevated creatinine kinase, and then you have EMG, which should be showing some irritability in the muscle, or high amplitude, low amplitude, high frequency discharges. And then when muscle biopsy is taken, you can see either degeneration or regeneration, as I already discussed in the previous slide, perifascicular or endomysial infiltrates are seen. And there is typical rash in dermatomyositis if it is dermatomyositis. And as I told you, it can overlap with certain CTDs. Usually it can be SLE, Sjogren's. There can also be scleroderma. When PMSCL antibody is present, MCTD is also one of the common entity of overlap. And these are the things which you need to do, lab features like creatinine kinase. I told you, like in 50 times more than upper limit in dermatomyositis and polymyositis, whereas in necrotizing you have 10 times, inclusion body less than 10 times. Aldolase, LDH, AST, ALT. These are for muscle markers, and you can also see inflammatory markers like elevated ESR, CRP, and there is anemia of chronic disease. When you do muscle biopsy, you will have perifascicular or periendomysial infiltrates are seen. This is dermatomyositis. In dermatomyositis, as I told you, there is usually complement-mediated destruction. Complement-mediated destruction is happening around the perifascicular. So if you consider this to be a fascicle, around this also fascicle, around the fascicle there is infiltrates. Okay, are you able to see? Are you able to see?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, around the fascicle you're having the infiltrates. So then it is dermatomyositis. And perivascular inflammation is also seen. Perivascular atrophy and fibrosis can be seen. And this is usually humoral mediated. So CD4 cells, B cells are seen, and interferon is produced. And this is polymyositis pathology. It is usually CD8 mediated, and it is cell mediated immune mechanism. So cells infiltrate within the fascicle, invading the muscle. So endomysial, anti-endomysial antibodies we told. And inside the fascicle, this is inside the fascicle. Inside the fascicle, this is the endomysial area around the fibrin, endomysium. Around the endomysial area, you are getting the infiltrates. So this is a blue, this one pinkly stained one is a eosinophilic stained one is the muscle. Around that are the infiltrates which are basophilic stained. And this is immune mediated necrotizing myopathy. In necrotizing myopathy, there is degeneration as well as regeneration, as we discussed before, and there is pars lymphocytic infiltration. So you're not seeing like that of in polymyositis and dermatomyositis. See how many infiltrates are here. Here also there are more number of infiltrates. Here the infiltrates are not so many, but there is degeneration and regeneration, and there is as well as necrosis in certain areas. Necrosis is happening. So antibodies in dermatomyositis and polymyositis. Autoantibodies. Autoantibodies to nuclear antigen or cytoplasmic antigen are present in 55% of the patients. Negative ANA with cytoplasmic staining should be an suspicion for you to go with the testing of antibodies for myopathy. Myositis, there are two types of antibodies like myositis specific autoantibodies and myositis associated antibodies. The myositis specific antibodies are antisynthetase antibodies. Under antisynthetase antibodies, you have Jo1, PL7, PL12, EJ, JOHA. These all are antisynthetase antibodies. For you now, you just remember antisynthetase, that is enough. Furthermore, if you want to know, Jo1 is associated with one particular organ involvement, EJOJKS1, Jo other one, Ha. These are nothing but the antibodies, different types of synthetase. tRNA synthetase is there. For that, different types of synthetase antibodies are given. Different names. These are those names. Those are all like difficult to remember. So just to remember these abbreviations is remember one POJX JOHA. These are synthetase antibodies. And then coming to dermatomyositis antibodies. Are you able to see me?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you there? Okay,
Yes,
there is no
ma'am.
disturbance in PowerPoint or like webcam, right? Then coming
No,
to
ma'am.
dermatomyositis antibodies, MI2, MDA5, TIF1 gamma, NXP2. These are dermatomyositis antibodies. So just remember antisynthetase antibodies are these. Dermatomyositis are these like MI2, MDA5, TIF1, TIF gamma, NXP2. Then coming to immune-mediated necrotizing myopathy. Necrotizing myopathy, you have to remember anti-HMG CoA reductase antibody, anti-200 to 200 by 100. It is associated with prior statin use. After statin use, some patients can develop more than 100 times elevation in the creatinine kinase. That is to do with necrotizing myopathy. Then you have SRP antibodies. Again, you have inclusion body myositis, NT5C1A. This is the newest antibody discovered in 2013. Then these are all the myositis specific antibodies. Then coming to myositis associated antibody. God. Myositis associated antibodies are PMSCL if it is also scleroderma, U1RNP when it is MCTD, Rho when it is Jofrens, 56K DA, KJ for MAS, MJ, HPMS1. These are also associated antibodies which you can see per se not defined like which CTD along with. Okay. So now you got there are two types of antibodies, either myositis specific or myositis associated. Specific are anti-synthetase antibodies like J1, PL712, EJ, SOHA, and dermatomyositis Mi2, MBA5, Tifi gamma, NXP2. Immune mediated is HMG CoA reductase SRP. Inclusion body is NT5C1A, and associated are PMSCL, U1RNP, ROG 56 Qaeda, KJ for MAS, MJ, HPMS1. These all. Then coming to the muscle manifestations. Usually there is symmetrical proximal muscle and truncal muscle weakness, and there is relatively slowly progressive weakness which is for weeks to months, and sometimes weakness can occur earlier than pain, or sometimes both can coexist. And there is difficulty in raising from chair, climbing steps, lifting objects, combing hair. Why? It is proximal muscle weakness. So then distal muscle groups are affected only in the late course, whereas in inclusion body myositis you can have bit early. Facial muscles are unaffected. Pharyngeal and respiratory muscles may be affected, and it is often painless, although some pain may be seen in the course, early in the course. So early presentation can be pain. After few days you can have weakness, or weakness and pain both can exist, come together. And also creatinine kinase will be very high in the initial stages, and gradually as the muscle death occurs at the terminal stages, the creatinine kinase levels might not be very much high as that in the earlier stages, because when the muscle necrosis is happening, creatinine kinase is very high. But gradually, when the muscles have already been destroyed by earlier affection, then muscle mass will be very less in the terminal stages. When muscle mass is very less, the creatinine kinase levels will be less. Then coming to dermatological manifestation, which is seen in case of dermatomyositis, usually skin lesions are photosensitive. Where else do you see photosensitivity rash? In SLE, and they can be pruritus, whereas pruritus is not there in SLE. And variety of characteristic rashes can be there, which I'll show you in the next picture. Periangular erythema with the abnormal capillary loops can be seen, which is similar to that of scleroderma. So skin rash, photosensitivity, which can be like that of photosensitivity like SLE, periangular erythema, abnormal capillary loops like scleroderma. And psoriasiform changes of scalp can be seen. Calcinosis can be present. Calcinosis can be present like that of systemic sclerosis. See, this is the picture of Gottron's papules. Usually dermatomyositis patient can have Gottron's papules. This is a spelling mistake. It is pathognomic, not pathognomonic. Here in the knuckle areas, you can see the papules or like whitish papillar eruptions. That is called as Gottron's papules. There is something called as Gottron's rash. In the same area, when you have a rash, that is Gottron's rash. Papules are Gottron's. There is whitish discal like papillar rash over the knuckles, and interphalangeal joints, then you can have that Gauton's sign or Gauton's pappus, which is very pathognomic. And the next pathognomic is heliotropic rash. Heliotropic rash is nothing but a violaceous inflammatory pigmentation or inflammatory sign which you can see around the periorbital area. What is heliotrope? Heliotrope is nothing but a flower, a violaceous flower. So from that you got this name. Around the eye, periorbital area, you can have that rash, which is called as heliotropic rash. If you see here also it is there around the periorbital area. Then this picture is shawl sign. See, there is inflammation around the shoulder and front and back. This is like a shawl. Whenever you try to have wear a shawl, the areas where you are getting covered, that is called as that is red in color, that is or inflammatory. So you call it as shawl sign. And this is V sign. V sign because in the front area, whenever you try to wear a shirt or anything which is V, you know what V shape is. In the similar way, in the V area, you are going to get that thing. So this is V sign. I hope you can see that V sign. Then this is mechanic hand, which is as we already discussed, mechanic hands is typical in that. Typical in what? Mechanics hand. You can see in all, but you can specifically see in anti-synthetase antibodies positive cases. And as it the mechanic people are prone to have traumas, and they are having many hyperkeratosis and all in those areas. In the similar way, these patients will also have subingual hemorrhages and hyperkeratosis and lesions over the fingertips or periangular area. Coming to next manifestation, that is cutaneous calcinosis. This is common in the juvenile dermatomyositis, and it is rare in adult and often occurs at the site of compression, and it can be painful and can lead to ulceration and infection, and it is difficult to treat. And if at all you want to try some treatment, you can give calcium channel blockers, vasodilators, bisphosphonates can be tried. See, this is calcinosis cutis. If at all you were seeing in now you seeing the picture, you know which is dermatomyositis related calcinosis cutis. The other one is calcinosis cutis because of scleroderma. They are not this bad enough. If I have a picture of scleroderma also, I'll show you. See, there is in the muscular deposition or around that larger deposition of calcinosis cutis in this area also. When it is involving a joint and causing fixed reflection deformity or anything, then you can try for surgical management of the patient. There is another entity called as amyopathic dermatomyositis. In that, amyopathic means there is no muscle manifestation. There is only cutaneous manifestation. Okay. So cutaneous skin signs are there, like shawl sign, V sign, etc. can be seen, but there is no muscle involvement. When there is no muscle involvement, there is no elevation of muscle enzymes, and there is no muscle weakness. And 10 to 20% of dermatomyositis cases can be amyopathic, and then it can progress to myopathy in small number of patients within 5 years, or if not, it can never progress to myopathy. It is just dermatomyopathy. Then coming to cardiac involvement, it is between 6 to 75% patients. Like it is wide range and usually asymptomatic. And the most common cardiac manifestation is conduction abnormality. Arrhythmias can occur in these patients. And pulmonary manifestations of dermatomyositis and polymyositis are the major cause of morbidity and mortality in case of myositis is because of ILDs. They can lead to hypoventilation in 50 to 20% of patients, and then they can be because of severe muscle weakness, which is involving the respiratory muscles. Because of that, patient is not able to take the respiration because of the patient can have pathology or like decreased oxygenation. This is restrictive pattern of PFTs can be present with reduced lung volumes and atelectasis on chest X-ray. Aspiration pneumonia can occur. And it is usually aspiration pneumonia. It is because of dysphagia, because the muscles affected in myositis are both skeletal muscles as well as smooth muscles can be involved. So whenever this thing is happening, like skeletal muscle involvement can occur more often. When skeletal muscle involvement is occurring in the pharynx and upper half of the esophagus, which is having the muscular component, when it is affected, dysphagia can occur. When dysphagia is there, aspiration pneumonia can occur. Also, pulmonary manifestation are because of muscle weakness per se, restrictive pattern of PFT, aspiration pneumonia can occur, and other one is ILD. ILD can occur before concomitantly along with the symptoms. And when associated with amyopathic dermatomyositis, poor prognosis is seen and it progresses very rapidly. Three patterns are seen: acute onset pulmonary pulmonary intervention can be done for and it can cause progressive hypoxia within 1 month of the symptom onset. It can be acute or chronic or asymptomatic progression can be seen. And it is a major cause for the premature death, ILD. So ILD is one which you have to keep in note. And pattern of ILD in dermatomyositis or polymyositis is NSIP, UIP, bronchiolitis obliterans pneumonia, diffuse alveolar hemorrhage can occur, spontaneous pneumomediastinum can also be present. Coming to antisynthetase syndrome, it is relatively acute disease onset and constitutional symptoms like fever, weight loss can be present. Raynaud's disease present, mechanic hands is common here. Arthritis with fever is the common manifestation. ILD can be more prominent than muscle involvement and associated with antisynthetase antibodies that are highly specific for dermatomyositis or polymyositis. Antisynthetase antibody is like I told you, so those all comes under antisynthetase. The most common among those is anti-Jo1, and it does not require all these to diagnose. It can have only just this one, and if you have the Jo1 or antisynthetase, any antibody, you can diagnose as a case of antisynthetase syndrome. Now, malignancy can be one of the features associated with the dermatomyositis or polymyositis. There is increased risk of malignancy, and there are different types of malignancies which can occur in these patients. According to the population-wise, like it differs. Dermatomyositis has more predilection for cancer than polymyositis, and when the capillary damage is present more on the muscle biopsy, those people are more prone for malignancy. And cutaneous leukocytoclastic vasculitis can occur, and more than 60 years age, up to 48% patients can have malignancy. Antibodies like anti-P155 antibody, anti-P155 by 140, anti-MJ. These are antibodies associated with cancer. And antibodies with negative association for cancer are anti-synthetase antibody, anti-MI2, anti-SRP, anti-RNP, anti-PMSCL, anti-2. And these are the types of cancer. The most common associated cancer which you see in these patients, most commonly in dermatomyositis, is ovarian. Ovarian is more common than all, followed by lung, bronchial carcinoma, pancreatic carcinoma, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, gastric carcinoma, colorectal carcinoma, breast carcinoma can occur. So when do you want to, as myopathy patients can have cancer, so you need to screen them for cancer at a proper time. So when do you suspect a patient with the cancer, or when do you want to do the further test? Age appropriate cancer screening is required. Elderly age or long duration of disease, when you can think of uh, doing for a cancer test. You need to do the complete physical examination. As breast carcinoma is common, you need to do the breast examination, rectal examination, and pelvic examination, ovarian, colorectal cancer, and uh, gastric carcinoma can also have. So you need to do thorough physical examination. Lab tests like CBP, ESR, CRP, uric acid, urine examination, etc. And stool for occult blood, a colonoscopy can be seen. Or tumor marker CA125 for gastric carcinoma can be seen. In imaging, you can do first initially chest X-ray, ultrasound, followed by CT scan and transvaginal ultrasound for women in case of dermatomyositis, as ovarian is more common. And repeat the screening for 2 to 3 years after the diagnosis, except for ovarian cancer, and you can consider CA125, which can rise up to, which can suggest more. And though CT we are telling all this is only for paper based or something we just talk about. But if at all you get a patient with dermatomyositis and you think of carcinoma, you can directly go for PET scan rather than going for CT, and then if you don't find anything, again going for PET. You can directly go for PET according to the affordability issues. Then coming to the treatment. Can you see the picture?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So the treatment wise, initially you start the patient on prednisolone, which is an oral tablet. Whenever you give it in a form of an injection, it is methylprednisolone. And other immunosuppressive therapies like azathioprine, methotrexate, cyclophosphamide can be tried. Coming to prednisolone, you give it in the dose of 0.75 to 1.5 milligram per kg per day to start with. That is like around, you give him like around 40 to 60 milligrams, 40 to 80 milligrams of prednisolone. But you have to, whenever you're giving a steroid, you have to remember the side effects like hypertension, weight gain, hyperglycemia, hypokalemia, cataracts, gastric irritation, osteoporosis, etc. And you need to monitor their weight, blood pressure, and glucose levels. And that is to do with the same as injectable form. Usually 1 gram preparation you give for like 3 to 6 doses, and side effects are like that of previous one. As you give large doses, there can be erythemias, flushing, etc. But hyperglycemia, hypokalemia are to be taken care of, and you need to monitor heart rate, blood pressure, etc. And coming to immunosuppressive therapy, azathioprine can be tried. It can be given in oral route, 2 to 3 milligram per kg per day. And side effects are flu-like illness, hepatotoxicity, pancreatitis. Pancreatitis, you remember, this can be asked for your entrance. So again, monitor blood counts and liver enzymes. Teratogenicity can be present, but it is not coming under like, which is very contraindicated. Then coming to methotrexate, you can give either oral or subcutaneous preparations. Oral, you can give as 7.5 to 20 milligram per kg per week. When you are giving beyond 20 milligrams, it's preferable to go for a subcutaneous dosing. And the side effects are hepatotoxicity, pulmonary fibrosis, infertility, leukopenia, etc. Monitor liver enzymes and blood counts. And next one is cyclophosphamide, that also oral or intravenous you can give. Doses oral 1.5 to 2 milligram per kg, or like 0.5 to 1 milligram per gram per meter square per month when it is injectable form. Usually side effect is bone marrow suppression, so you will see for blood counts and urine analysis. Hemorrhagic cystitis is one of the important thing which can happen with cyclophosphamide. To treat hemorrhagic cystitis, you give Mesna. And then coming to cyclosporin, 4 to 6 milligram per kg per day, and you divide it into 2 doses and give. Nephrotoxicity can happen, hepatotoxicity, hirsutism can happen. You need to take care of blood pressure, creatinine, BUN levels. And then coming to tacrolimus, in 0.1 to 0.2 milligram per kg per day dose. Nephrotoxicity, hepatotoxicity can occur. Blood pressure and liver enzyme you need to monitor. And then coming to mycophenolate mofetil, oral preparation. You can give in adults with 1 gram BD, children 600 milligrams per meter per PD. Bone marrow suppression is something you need to take care of. And headache, sinusitis, confusion, amblyopia, etc. Blood count can be monitored. Then coming to intravenous immunoglobulins, 2 gram per kg over 2 to 5 days. Then 1 gram per kg every 4 to 8 weeks is needed. Whenever you're giving immunoglobulins, you need to take care of the vitals, because this hypertension is well-known side effect. Arrhythmia, diaphoresis, flushing, nephrotoxicity can occur. Monitor heart rate, blood pressure, and creatinine levels. And then coming to rituximab, it is also an intravenous preparation, and the course is specifically 150 milligrams per meter square, and you need to repeat it in 2 weeks. And then they are repeated usually every 6 to 18 months. Okay, now you take after 2 weeks, and then after 16 to 18 months. And the common side effect is infusion-related reactions, infection, and PMLA. And monitor the blood counts, B cell counts, because it's CD20, like B cell destructing drug, right? So you need to take care of B cell count, because secondary infection should not be happening in the patients. Okay. So did you follow? So what are the different types of treatment modalities we use? Either you can prefer the steroids or you can prefer the immunosuppressive treatment. Are you able to follow me? Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You got tired, huh? Listening to the class. So that is to do with the treatment which I told you, which is usually taken. And then I have only like a few more slides. Shall I complete off? Only one inclusion body is there. Do you want me to complete or not? Just 3 more slides. Shall I?
She is sleeping. Yes, ma'am.
Huh?
Yes,
Are
ma'am.
you are so hungry, I suppose, because no one is telling actively. Okay, inclusion body myositis, as I already told you, that is something which is seen in the elderly male population, and there is usually proximal and distal both are affected in the equal manner. When you see the pathology, you see rimmed vacuoles, which is an important your entrance MCQ also. If you might be following some online classes, or they might have already told you, basophilic vacuoles are usually present inside the muscle. This is common for inclusion body myositis. And 90% of the patients have filamentous inclusions on electron microscopy. And based on the muscle pathology, often it is misdiagnosed as polymyositis because it is having antibodies against the or like inflammation around the endomysium. As it is, whenever endomysium is there, you think of polymyositis. So you can mistake it for polymyositis. But where rimmed vacuoles are present only in case of inclusion body myositis. And then if at all you want to diagnose inclusion body myositis, there is finger flexion or knee extension weakness, endomysial inflammation, and invasion of non-necrotic muscle fibers or rimmed vacuoles will be present. This has the sensitivity. These are the three are there. There is sensitivity of 90, specificity of 96. And then lab abnormalities. Usually CK is elevated less than 10 times. Usually there is no elevation in the inflammatory markers. Only creatinine kinase elevation you see, and it is associated with NT5C1A antibody. And EMG is similar to that of polymyositis, especially not dermatomyositis. MRI can be showing similar features as that of inflammation, like in dermatomyositis or polymyositis, and it is not responsive to treatment. When you have inclusion body myositis in elderly male, think like it is not a good prognostic sign. Then differential diagnosis. Always whenever you're seeing myopathy in a case of less than 50 years patient, 20 to 50 years, when you are thinking polymyositis, always first try to rule out metabolic myopathy. Either maybe glycogen storage disease, lipid storage disease, mitochondrial myopathy. These all should be ruled out. Early muscle fatigability, early muscle elevated muscle enzymes can be seen. Normal strength can be seen in the initial stage, which can progress to weakness later. Polymyalgia rheumatica also should be ruled out. Other drug-related like statins, colchis, and antimalarials like HCQ can also cause a similar picture. These are all DDs. Muscular dystrophy, endocrine myopathy like hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism can also have elevated CPK levels, and dermatomyositis muscle necrosis can happen, which is usually focal, but it is not as that. So these are the things which you need to consider as differential diagnosis. Okay. So that is about for today's class. I hope you all got whatever I told you. If any doubts, you can ask me anytime. Are you all there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's it for today's class. Come prepare for the next class so that I'll ask you a few questions. Okay? Keep your
Okay,
attendance.
ma'am.
No.
Especially,
Yeah,
I don't know your name, whoever you are telling. I want to ask you questions. At least try at least introduction part of all the diseases. You just have a glance. Need not read too much. Also, just have a glance. Okay. Okay. Respond.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ma'am.
Put your attendance in the chat box. Okay.